Hello and welcome to the Card Fellas Show, the least sexy thing on the internet. And in the words of our friends from some movie, The Hangover, I think, we are back. We are back. We are back.
Oh, we are back indeed. Yes, I think back in the old wrestling days,
Yeah.
the old wrestlers would get hurt or something like that, or they have a conflict or with their contract, and
Hmm.
they would come back into the ring, and the guys would be like, "He's been fighting overseas for the last year," and like they would reintroduce them, but there was always something behind the scenes. So we've been taking our collecting overseas for the last
Yeah,
couple of years,
we've
if you
been
will.
we've been we've been fighting overseas. And don't
Yes.
adjust your screens, folks. I do have a giant chicken on my hat. So
Yeah, that's a nice chicken hat.
thank you.
That's you've
That's
you've
right.
upgraded your headwear.
Yep.
I
Yep.
have not, which is unfortunate for our viewers. And as I was telling you earlier, we redoing our basement here, so I have like construction lights on me. We don't have any overhead lights, so my appearance is like I feel like I'm in a bunker somewhere in like I don't know Afghanistan, and you look like you're like in this like polished studio, but you're in your house too. So I guess to each their own when it
I've
comes
been
to
dialing it
our
in. I've been
appearance.
dialing it
You
in.
have, you have,
Preparing
and
for our return.
we wanted to bring the boom as we came back, and I think we're doing that with the set that we're talking about. I'm going to go on the record, Chris, and tell you right now, I didn't really care for this set. I didn't really collect this set. I tried to figure out why. And I do have a good reason why. I don't think I had many of these cards or why I was doing it. But first, let's get into what we're doing. The 1989 Score football set, one of the more iconic sets from the 80s for sure. But in football, I would say overall, if you would
Yeah,
agree.
for sure. I think it's actually, 89 Upper Deck is kind of looked at as like the premier junk wax set Upper Deck baseball. I would say this is the 89 Upper Deck of football, in that when people think of like the best set of the junk wax era, I think this is at the top of many people's lists. And I was going through some of our old shows that we did. And if you're having a hard time finding those, if you go to our YouTube channel, you actually got to click on the live tab because we were doing those live and it's kind of hard to find them. So I think what we're going to start doing, at least for now, is recording these and then just putting them up as videos instead of lives, because I think they're just easier for people to find if we do it that way. But yeah, this is a set we hadn't touched on back in the old days of doing the show, but I think it's a really cool set. And I have the opposite story in that I had a job, and what I was doing is I was making Christmas wreaths out of like, pieces of pine trees. And the place that I worked that I was making these was right next to a card shop. And it was when this set came out, and I have great memories of, they paid me cash back in those days, of literally getting the money and walking right next door to that card shop and buying this stuff.
Right.
I used to have a ton of it, and I think when when I was going through the kind of moving around phase of your early 20s and trading
Mhm.
girlfriends and doing those things, I remember selling a bunch of cards at a garage sale. And I think that's when most of these left me. But I do have I have a PSA 9 Barry Sanders rookie, and I've
Okay.
got a couple of Aikmans, and I've got all the key cards. I know I graded that Sanders. I don't know if I graded the other cards or not, but this set really, it is one of the first sets I remember buying a lot of. And
Hmm.
I wish I still had them, because it's one
Yeah.
of the few junk wax era sets that really is still holding its value very well. So
Yeah. And I think one of the things that you mentioned right off the top was the 89 Upper Deck. And 89 baseball was for me, that's what I collected during this time, which explains why I didn't have many of these cards. 89 baseball to me was the premier year for junk wax because of Ken Griffey Jr. And you're
mhm.
also chasing the Billy Ripken card. So 1989 for me was all about baseball, which is why I didn't really have many of these cards. And I think one of the other things about this set, even as the years went by, was they became more expensive than a lot of the other cards because of its, it's really strong rookie class. And I think that was the other part of it. And I said off the top, this isn't one of my favorite sets. I really did not like the pictures that they used of the rookies. The headshot, the yearbook style, just didn't do it for me. It was different, and it just, you're looking at right here the Barry Sanders, one of the iconic cards. But I don't know. It's just there was something about it where they used up a lot of real estate on the yearbook picture, and it was just different. And I like the shots that are action. You and I have talked about sports cards as art, and so I think there's a little bit to that for me. But I mean, you look at this set, there were 330 cards in the regular set. Now, there was a supplemental set that was after that, got a lot of interest as well. But going to this original set, you got 330 cards. I would say this is iconic also because it was Score's first entry into football. So you have those two elements. Anytime a new product is introduced, people are interested. And I would say, yes, you said it, the quality of this set during the junk wax era is undeniable. You had the Barry Sanders card, which you just saw, Troy Aikman. You had Deion Sanders, Michael Irvin, Tim Brown, Derek Thomas, Michael Irvin, Chris Carter, Thurman Thomas. You had Ickey Woods. You had Rod Woodson, Bruce Matthews, Atwater, Andre Rison, Tony Mandrich, Hartley Dykes. I mean, those were the rookies of that era and that generation. And those guys had really, most of them, Tony Mandrich on your screen, had really long, successful careers. A lot of Hall of Famers. So
Mandrich was the only guy in the top 5 of that draft that didn't go to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, there you go. And he was number 1. And the bust of all busts.
He was 2.
He was 2. Who was 1?
Mandrich was 2, and Barry Sanders was 3. And then I think it was Derek Thomas.
Oh, that's right. Aikman was 1. That's right. So Mandrich was 2. Probably you could argue between him and Ryan Leaf, 2 of the probably worst number 2 picks of all time. But I think the hardest thing for him, much like Leaf, is you're surrounded in this set by true NFL superstars, and so when you look at that, it's tough. But simple design. It was when you look at the design too, it's very similar to what other scorecards look like. They had the red, the blue, the green borders, and I like the design with the players on them, like with in action. I think they're sharp looking cards. There's not a lot of flash to them, but they were colorful. And again, this was a time where a lot of white borders were happening in baseball or football or whatever the case may be. So anytime there was color, it got your attention. And I think Score did a really good job with this. And we've seen this card or this design come back in more of the modern cards, which you're starting to see more in sports card collecting, which you and I love, especially baseball. But it's great to see or football kind of join in that. Here's that Peyton Manning card. It's just, this wasn't from his rookie season.
This was 2014, and they kind of did a retro. But then this was this year, or it was last year, 2024. They came out with the retro rookies with Bo Nix. So they didn't use the yearbook photo. They used this was out of this was just out of regular Score. They used the college photos, which they've been doing in Score. Just because they print that before the actual draft happens. But that's another thing that I wanted to bring up about this set is before 1989, now Pro Set and Score 1989 had the rookies of that year in the actual set. And I think that's why you have the headshot, the yearbook style photo, because I think they took those photos probably at the draft and sent that stuff right to the printer because they just didn't have the guys in their uniforms yet. So this was something that, and I know today, and if you're, 25, 30, 40, even a 40-year-old collector today, you're used to seeing your rookie card of that year's draft class there. But John Elway was drafted in 1983, but his rookie is 1984 tops. And that's the way cards were then. And this in 1989 was the first year where we actually had the rookies of that class of that year in the set. And in 1989 with Topps, they were still doing it the way they used to do it. So it was a traded set. And then in 1990, they went, oh, we have to do this too. So the 1990 Topps set was the first set that had the actual rookies of that year. But again, I think Pro Set and Score forced their hand by doing that in 1989 and making that big change. And the Score rookies of that year, the players they were in action photos, or the Pro Set rookies but they were in college uniforms at that time. So this was a headshot. They were, and you could see, like Barry Sanders is wearing a Detroit Lions jersey there. Aikman's wearing a Cowboy jersey. This Deion Sanders card is awesome, by the way. Love the hair and the hat, and it's just like nothing screams late '80s more than that photo. Yeah, but it's
notice they kind of have their shoulders like this. But except for like Derek Thomas is straight. So it was just, I think it was just, there's some things, it felt put together in a way that was, like you said, speed and efficiency over a certain look. It's just like, let's get these published and let's get these printed and let's get these out to the consumer, which is a smart move. Now that card right there, now that you could argue, now that came out of the supplemental set. So this one is, the Bo Jackson black and white iconic one that we know from the baseball set. I think they saw a lot of opportunity with the crossover clearly. And I would give this one like a B minus compared to the Score baseball one, which is like an A plus, right? Like they tried, but it falls short of the baseball one, but still dang cool card. And, I think the other thing too about all these sets from the 80s, they always had the inserts like you were talking about. They had something, the record breakers, the all pros, the great combos right there, the ones that you have there. There was something called Predators, which is for the defensive players, speed burners for the quick guys. And, one of the more valuable cards, or I was going to say, I don't want to say one of the more valuable cards, but one of the more interesting things that I found in doing research was the Tim Brown card. So the rookie card of Tim Brown, the base card was anywhere between like $50 and $75, but he also had a record breaker card, but they had an error on it. It was actually James Lofton, and that card goes for $100. So a card of James Lofton as Tim Brown is actually more valuable, but it all comes down to pop reports and how the scarcity of it. But it's just, that's the thing about the 80s that I do love as well, is some of those air cards and the quirky cards and the things that happened that all of a sudden pop up and you go, wow, okay, this James Lofton as Tim Brown card is actually more valuable than a Tim Brown rookie card. So I don't know, it's just the quirks of the era, which I appreciate.
Yeah. And, the other thing we talked about, those rookies from that rookie class in 1989, they still, even though Michael Irvin was in 88, Tim Brown was drafted in 88, they still consider those their rookie card because I think Topps, that was when the Topps rookie was too. So those are still kind of thought of as rookie cards. I believe the Chris Carter is as well. Yes. So just a lot of, and those cards, they don't have the headshot. Of course, those are the in-action shot. And that's what I would say. I mean, we kind of made fun of those yearbook style headshots for the rookie cards, but for the veteran cards that are in the set, that photography that you see in those photos is, at that time, that was revolutionary. I mean, that was way better than what Topps had been doing before. So they were kind of thought of in those cards. When you pulled those cards out of the pack, which we can talk about that too, Score in 88 came out with their first baseball set, and they were in kind of the garbage baggy style pack. Yes. And this was the first time that type of pack was seen in football cards. It was always wax packed with Topps. There was actually a weird Fleer set in 1988. But Pro Set and both Score had those baggy style packs in 1989. And that was the first time that was seen in football. So
I do remember those baggies, and they're tough. I mean, those were tough pulls with those baggy cards because the cards didn't get as protected. And
Right.
so,
Yep.
that was one of the things that they're easier to open, kind of, I guess. Not really though. And now that I'm thinking about it, you got a lot of snags on corners. It was just one of the frustrating things. And you brought up Pro Set. Now, I know we're not talking about Pro Set today, but it was one of those choices you got to make. Are you going to take Pro Set or are you going to take Score? And thinking back, I got Pro Set. I got a lot of Pro Set cards. So my guess is the Pro Set boxes were much cheaper than the Score boxes because I was buying based on my budget, and it must have been cheaper. I don't remember what a Score box went for, like a 36 pack, 15 packs in per card. I'm talking this was like $10 for a Pro Set box. Do you have
Yeah.
any idea what a box went for back then? I don't
I
remember.
don't remember the prices, and I don't know if it was price driven. I can tell you this. When Pro Set came out in '89, it was the official card of the NFL. The design, I think, is a little more attractive and the way it was set up. And, we talk about the photography with the Score Set being way better than Topps. I would say Pro Set's photography was even better because they were using Getty images for their photos. And I think the Pro Set card, when it came out of the other thing is the box of Pro Set actually had the cards on the box, on the photo, and it looked sharp. And Scores was more, the box was more, I would say, cartoony looking. And they kind of carried that. I remember the packages, like even in the 90 and the 91 cards, kind of had that cartoonish look to it. The box started looking more professional, but the pack still looked kind of cartoony. And I think if you were a 13 or 14-year-old boy and you walked into your card shop and you looked at those two boxes, you'd be like, I want the Pro Set. It just looks cooler. It was the official card of the NFL. And I don't know how aligned they were with the NFL, but they kind of made it seem like their brand was aligned with the NFL. So I think that was probably part of it. If you were a kid in there shopping for something, you'd be like, that's the one I would want. I don't remember a major price discrepancy. There is now. There definitely is now.
Sure.
I mean,
absolutely.
you can find Pro Set packs in like bargain bins in places, but it's very hard to find a pack of 1989 Score in a clean box. Like you said, these packs, if the box is dropped, like the cards in them are going to have, banged up corners and stuff. So you got to find a clean box, and the packs are going to be pretty expensive compared to Pro Set. So
hindsight, I went with the Betamax and left the VHS on the shelf. For anybody who's from our era, that's kind of what I did, going with all the Pro Set instead of the Score. But you can get a box now of this Score on eBay. They're selling for around like $1,400. Those are the ones that are sealed through, the ballpark exchange. And is it worth it? I don't know. It's definitely one of those things. If you're looking to get your value back, I don't know if it's going to be there. There's 330 cards in the set, and it would be a nostalgic pull, rip if you have the money. But at this point, I don't know. I don't know what to tell anybody. I'm not going to tell somebody how to spell. I'm not going to tell anybody how to spend their money. But something I would I'd prefer to watch somebody else do.
Yep. And then the sets are way more affordable. And I think if you were just wanting to break these things up and try to get something that you could grade, I think you'd probably be better off buying multiple sets than one box. But people like to buy the box. They enjoy the chase. They enjoy opening the packs. But if you were really going to strategically do this, that would probably be the way to do it. But honestly, if you're really going to strategically do it, I would just go buy the graded cards. I think you could just buy the cards graded much less expensively than you can if you were going to try to pull them and grade them. Barry Sanders PSA 10 is about $1,400 You can buy that card raw anywhere from 30 to 50 bucks. The Deion Sanders in a PSA 10 is going for about $600. Raw 8 to 16 bucks. The Aikman PSA 10, they're selling for about $425 right now. Again, we're recording this in mid-May of 2025. Raw 15 to 25 bucks. The Derek Thomas in a PSA 10 is $175, and they're selling for $5 to $10 raw.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about the set prices are around $300 a set. That's for that's for a sealed, factory sealed is like $300. So for the price of a box, which is like $1,400, I mean, you can buy 3-4 factories sealed, and then maybe get a 10 and get some money out of it. But when you start looking at some of these pop reports, like Barry Sanders is the most graded. 32,000 graded rookie cards, which comes out to only about 2,400 are PSA 10s. So that's a tough card, but there's good inventory out there, and I would say you see a frequency of that card out there pretty good as far as availability. Aikman's the second, Deion Sanders is the third, Chris Carter has over almost 6,000 graded, Thurman Thomas 5,300, Michael Irvin 5,200, Derek Thomas over 5,000. Then it goes to the Tim Brown error card. Again, I mentioned that one. That one has a little bit more value than his rookie, Rod Woodson, and then that Bo Jackson supplemental card, over 3,200 graded with a 742 gem rate. That card's going for about 300 to 400 at PSA 10, but that's in a completely different set, right? Like you're not gonna get that out of a box. You're not gonna get that out of the 32 or 330 card factory sealed set. So you have to go somewhere else. But yeah, I think this is one of those sets where if you're gonna go chase it around a little bit, you're probably just best going to get the cards you want. I think that's the advice here, and I think there's probably a lot of collectors that do, quite honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And
I just enjoy the singles. If I can find the raw singles at card shows in good condition at a great price, I buy them almost all the time just because I like them, and that's kind of my wheelhouse.
I was going to check this. One quirky thing about this set, and I noticed John Elway was in the supplemental set.
Yep.
I don't know if he had a card in the regular set.
I don't know if he did have a regular,
and I don't know why. I don't know if there was an issue.
I don't know the answer to that either.
As I was looking at the supplemental set, I was like, why is John Elway? He didn't get traded. He wasn't a rookie. Like it's just one of those things. I just wonder if there's a issue with using his likeness. And the other thing about that that supplemental set was it had one of the cards that was really popular for a while was that Sterling Sharp rookie card in there, because that was Sterling was a really great wide receiver. Everybody was like, where's his rookie card? Then it came out, but it was in that supplemental set, so people were trying to figure out where to get it. And for us Vikings fans, the Herschel Walker card was in there too, of him in purple, and tried to erase that from our memories, but at the same time it's forever inked in our memories. But cool set, cool era for football. Looking back at some of these names, I mean, we got spoiled with some of these people, and some of them a lot of these guys are still relevant today. I mean, you talk about Deion Sanders and what he's doing, Michael Irvin, what he's doing, Troy Aikman, what he's doing. I mean, these guys are as much of football today. Maybe not. Maybe you could argue they are more now than they were when they were playing. More recognizable, I mean. And that might have something to say about their continued value. You and I have talked about that for a while. Guys who stay in the spotlight, their cards tend to still hold value. You think about from a basketball side, Charles Barkley. He's probably more popular now than he was when he was a player, and he was a Hall of Fame basketball player. So for sure, you just see those things, and you just again, this was an era that we grew up in, so we have a lot of passion and interest for it. So And I threw the name Ickey Woods in there too. I mean, not a Hall of Famer, but I mean, everybody knows from our era the Ickey Shuffle and what he meant for a year. And so, guys collect those things. They collect memories, and this set definitely has those.
Yeah. Yeah. The Bengals had gone to the Super Bowl the year before, got destroyed by San Francisco, but there were a ton of good Bengals cards in there as well, just because they were good the year before.
Yes.
So that 88 season was a pretty nice year from that. Was the year of Ickey, and Boomer Esiason was their quarterback, and they had a heck of a team. But well, I think we pretty much covered everything when it comes to 1989 score that we wanted to talk about. Is there anything else that you wanted to bring up?
No, I'm glad to be back talking cards, and hopefully people enjoy this and give us some recommendations on some sets that maybe they're interested in. I'd like to hear the feedback from people. It's always like to make this a little bit more interactive. I don't know if anybody's watching, but if they are, it'd be fun to chime in. And we're going to be on here more if you want to talk Chris through some of the things that we're talking about doing. I mean, obviously we're going to be ripping packs and boxes and doing things like we normally did, but you want to introduce kind of what we're thinking about coming up next?
Yeah, so I want to continue doing this just because I like this content. And if somebody else was making this, I would consume it. I mean, I enjoy learning about sets, and I kind of enjoy more of the documentary stuff. There's a ton of guys on there doing, sports card content on what the latest thing that Jeff Wilson's doing. I couldn't care less, what Jeff Wilson is doing or what some other YouTube guys, big problem is today. So I like to go back and do these types of things and try to make a show that's a little more educational, maybe a little more fun entertainment too. But I have no interest in gossiping about anything. So I just enjoy this type of show, and that's why we're doing this type of show, because this is what I would like to see. But the other thing that I want to do, and we're going to publish this on Wednesday, May 21st, 2025, but I'm seeing a lot more live shopping, and Whatnot kind of it was really kind of rising the last time we were doing the show. It's become a little bit of a weird place to do business. I don't have any interest in going there. But what I'm seeing is really cool stuff on eBay Live. And I think what's making it cool is they're being very selective on who gets to do it. And right now I'm not on that list, but I really want to do it. So what I'm going to do is tonight, so May 21st, 2025, I have a whole bunch of auctions launching. They're going to close on May 28th, the following Wednesday. And that will start happening at 8 p.m. Central. It'll be 9 p.m. Eastern. And I want to go live I'm going to have auctions closing for an hour and a half. So we're going to go from 9 p.m. to 10:30 Eastern. I've got over 150. I'm hoping to have almost 200 auctions loaded by the time these things go live. And what I want to do is just do a show while those auctions are ending and just talk through everything. And I'd like, actually, I'm not going to ask you to come on for the whole thing, but if you could pop on for 10 minutes and just talk, and I might see if I can find another guest or two to pop on and talk and just kind of talk some cards while these auctions are closing. And if people want to join me live and jump on there and just kind of interact with us, that's how I want to go live, is doing that kind of stuff. And my hope is, it is a lot of work to load that stuff, but my hope is to do it. And if people find it interesting, and if the auctions actually sell, which I don't know if they will or not, but if they do, maybe load something like that up every 2 weeks. Just get together, talk some cards, watch the auctions close out. And a lot of these cards are not like, I don't have a ton of high dollar cards, but I think they're just interesting cards. They're fun cards. They're cards of stars. So I hope that people enjoy. I've got some vintage stuff. I've got some ultra modern stuff. I've got some stuff from the 80s. I just kind of have a real eclectic mix of things in there. So I'm hoping it'll be stuff that everyone will be interested in, and just an opportunity to interact and to kind of celebrate cards for an hour and a half, a couple times a month. And that's kind of my plan for it. I don't know, Matt, I know you've got a bunch of graded stuff that you're listing up on your eBay store. By the way, my eBay store is called Second Oak. Second Oak, and I will link to those auctions when we publish this show. I'll put that in the comments. But when I go live, I'm going to publish that live. It'll go up about a week before. It'll just say, "Hey, Card Fellas is going live." I'll make sure that link is in there, and while we're going live, I'll pop it into the comments too. So as people are joining the show, if they want to hop on and do some bidding while we're going, they can do that. And I just think it'll be fun. I really, more than anything, this is what I do for a living in some different industries, but I talk for a living doing this stuff. And I think really what we're seeing, and I've done these live shopping events in the industries I work in, and it is incredibly successful. So my thought is, if worst case scenario, this is just another way for me to get some repetitions in and get better at the craft of doing this.
Yeah, and I think you brought up the point of having people join us, because I think this is the future of not just selling, but future of just interacting and connecting with a community. And one of the things that we're hoping to do is obviously make a little bit of money doing this, so we can continue to support the habit or the hobby or whatever you want to call it, addiction. But I think one of the things that you miss out sometimes with eBay is you don't know what you want until you see it. And I think that's what's great about card shows. I love going to card shows, and I like looking at cards and going, I didn't realize that type of set or type of design existed in this year. So I kind of, go to the shows, and if I like the card, I'll go back to my house or go on eBay and I'll look. So we're going to be presenting some of the cards that we have for sale, and it might trigger someone to put a bid in and say, hey, I really like that card. Maybe there's somebody out there who's a big Frank Thomas collector, and there's a unique Frank Thomas card, or a Andre Dawson, or some quirky guy that isn't mainstream, but hey, we have a couple of those cards coming up for sale, and you just want you want to connect people with the cards that make them happy. And so we're going to use this show to showcase a little bit more what's for sale from our stores, and hopefully get some interaction and maybe pull off trades. I don't know how it's all going to progress, but for now, we're going to use this platform as a selling tool, and hopefully everybody on board here can get in on the action if you see a card you like, and get it at a good price, because we're excited for what's potentially to come. And we've talked about using other platforms like TikTok and others that allow these opportunities. So look for some really hopefully cool content, and hopefully we can all learn something along the way together.
Yeah, I want to do these set shows as recorded shows like we're doing here, and then do the shopping events live, and hopefully they go well, and hopefully people enjoy them. I don't know. I mean, it's just we'll see how it goes. And I think for right now, I don't plan on putting stuff on the podcast platforms for right now. If we can really continue to make this thing a regular thing, and I think we'd go back to that. But I think right now we're just going to kind of put this stuff on YouTube and hope people enjoy it, and just see where we go from there. But I'm looking forward to going back and doing this, and again, just getting out there and talking some cards, and I really, these are fun because I like talking about the nostalgia of these sets, but I actually am really looking forward to doing the lives too, and just getting some interaction with people. So hope everybody enjoys this stuff, and hope to get the audience back and people getting used to the Card Fellas content once again. So that's all I got, Matt. Anything for you before we go?
Good to be back. Looking forward to the next one already.
All right. See you, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you later.